Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and this is a happy day with me and Mike Jones. Hello, Mike. Are you happy?
Yes, I'm deliriously happy and super successful.
Yes, you are. This is the way our county commissioners see themselves. This is the way they define their leadership. With our help, the county commissioners have been found guilty of multiple counts. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. I'm going to start again. Slander is when you say something that you know is not true and you say it anyway. And then there's other details depending on which state you're in. This is true. Everything I'm going to tell you now is 100% true. With our help, the county commissioners have been found guilty of multiple counts of breaking state law and their oaths of office. And if the state was to throw the book at them, which they're not going to do, but if they did, they could each spend 4 years in jail. That's how serious the state says that it takes the law that they broke. And the state doesn't like to do this, and it doesn't do it very often. This is why, in my opinion, Simon Hare got together with legal counsel who is guilty right along with them because he was right in there when they did it. And they can't say they didn't know because they actually said, we do know. And they've come up with a scheme in order to make it look better for themselves. This is why Wally Hicks is involved in a project that includes hiring a ghostwriter to try to make the commissioners look better, to write happy, positive articles about themselves. I'm not making any of this up, that you get to pay for. Just by coincidence, it's election time coming up here pretty soon. So I'm going to try to summarize what you're going to see in one long sentence. I'll try. With election season heating up, Commissioner Simon Hare wants to use funds that were supposed to go to economic development projects to pay instead for a writer to make up happy stories and potential advertisements promoting his super successful leadership qualities and those of his fellow commissioners. Economic development money. And although he's the only one that you'll see, along with Wally Hicks and Keith Heck in this meeting, when Cheryl joined them 2 days later, she was very happy to declare that absolutely this is all about economic development. It's not about her reelection or Keith's. It's about economic development, because how are you going to attract companies if they think or if they know that the commissioners have been found guilty and could technically go to prison?
So
they wouldn't. They wouldn't come here.
Are these stories, have they stipulated already that these stories will be specifically about the commissioners?
It's about their enlightened leadership.
Okay.
It's the kind of stories they can't convince anybody to write. As a matter of fact, it seems like they can't come up with them on their own because they've been saying they wanted to do this for a little while, but they can't do it. I don't know, maybe they don't have the imagination of Roy Lindsay, right? And so they're going to hire somebody. They can't get the Courier to do it. See, they used to have Jim Moore over at the Courier. He's not there anymore. Nobody's writing, just taking their press releases and putting them in the front page of the paper. That doesn't happen now. They're going to put the full court press on Edward Campuzano. They even look at him in the room when they're talking about happy, positive articles. And I'm not using those words in vain. I mean, this is what they say.
So in this video that we're about to see, Eder was in the room at this time. Is that true?
He was in the room at this time, yes. And I talked to him out in the hallway, and I said, can you see how they're targeting you? And if it doesn't work on you, they're going to go to Kevin Whittison, your boss, and they're going to try to see if they can pressure you guys into writing more happy, positive articles about him. And watch what I took the 2 most important quotes. We played them last night, and I put them up front. They look a little bit better now because I like good quality looking material, but I still work with Mike. And I put these up front so that you can see how serious Simon is. If the Courier won't play ball, if the Courier won't be the kind of media that we've never been, if they won't do that, then Simon's ready to, he'll see that the article's written with your tax dollars, the happy articles, and even take out, listen to what he says, listen carefully, even take out ad space if they have to get these things printed, so you'll stop thinking about the fact that they've been found guilty and then they don't get reelected. And then Simon is also running to be the vice president of ONC. There's a lot at stake politically for these guys. He has political aspirations, and you're going to pay the bill to see that he gets there. Play the tape.
Yeah, this is, hang on just a second. This is very interesting. Now, if you could imagine the same thing happening on a national scale, it might help you to see what's actually going on here, because you're thinking, oh, whatever, you know, they want a couple. Imagine the president going to MSNBC and having confabs with them about political strategy. Oh, wait a minute, that actually happened. So you know, this is very, very similar to that same situation. Is this what you want? This is who our leadership in this county is right now. That is amazing. That ought to blow everybody's mind. Anyway, with that said, here we go. Oh, yes, there's me. And it's really dark here and I'm scared. So I'm going to put on the other video now here. Hang on just a second.
He's too afraid to even talk about it.
This guy can't get his act together here. All right, here we go.
From my perspective, I'm doing this whether the Courier signs up or not. If at the end of the day we get a spot in the Chamber newsletter, or we get it on our website, or we have to publish it ourselves, that's what we control. I don't control the Courier. If they're not receptive, they're not receptive. That doesn't mean I'm not going to make every effort to do it. So they're not the only outlet. I mean, we've just got to work with what we have if they're not receptive. But I'm not going to not do it because they say that they don't want to meet with me, or they don't want to accept my 500 words and they'll accept yours. You know, I'm still going to write my 500 words, and it's going to be on the website or wherever else I can get it. Maybe we buy a billboard. I don't know. Whatever. We'll extend that as an offer. It's not received. It's not received. I don't know what to do with that. So we could, you know, we could pay. You know, if they don't give us a spot, I'm not exactly excited about that. But you know, those are the things we'll have to address once we talk to them. So.
You know, what's to stop these guys from doing what we're doing right now? You could get on YouTube, you could make a video of yourself and say whatever you want, and that doesn't cost the county a dime. Wouldn't cost the county a dime, but you're going to go pay a billboard. You know what a billboard costs?
No,
that's thousands of dollars to have
That was a joke. They were joking about that. I don't think they're going to buy a billboard because you'd have to you wouldn't be able to read it as you're driving by. Yeah, but the home of enlightened leaders.
Well, yes, but they can put some frilly. The point is that they don't care. It's your money. They're going to spend it to make themselves look good when they could easily just put a message out there.
Yeah.
Or if they wanted to be transparent, they could put those meetings on YouTube. You can live stream to YouTube. It's a snap now. Anybody can do it. And you know why they don't take advantage of that sort of thing? They could stand in front of the camera and go for 45 minutes expounding on the virtues of their leadership. I mean, it's just,
Dave Toller used to do that. He used to do it, and it ran on cable TV. Of course, that was when more people were watching cable TV. That was a while back. But yeah, let's not everybody get distracted by the idea that they mentioned billboard. I think he meant it as a joke. But the thing that is more important is toward the end, he said, well, we could pay for it. Now, we could pay for it. See, what they want to do is they want to put 500 words every month in the Courier. They would get more often if they could. They want to sit down with the Courier and have long talks about their policy and how it's wonderful it is. So the Courier will write good things. They don't need that from KJO. They already get that. But they already have a venue where they can do this. Once the real bosses are done talking, in my opinion, the people at the weekly business session, then they turn off that microphone and they say bad things about them or call them names or laugh at them or ridicule them for the stupid ideas that they have that aren't centered around raising your taxes, and then go on and on and on during their protected time, and nobody can say a word. They've got it all to themselves. I've seen them go for 3 hours. They can do that. But nobody's printing any good things about them anymore, in their opinion. So they're going to pay somebody to do it. And Simon's willing to go so far as to even pay to have it printed.
Well, what if you actually like did effective things that inspired people to write stories about?
You would get free publicity, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Scott Chansey gets free publicity on our show. Nate Gowrie gets free publicity on our show. We praised Lily Morgan for at least the stand that she took about opposing the city sales tax. So
that's right. That's right. You know what? That's what they need to do. They just need to come around to our way of thinking, because if they did that, then they'd be getting good press from us instead of bad.
Well, they get much more press than Lily will ever get. We've got well over 1,500 videos. That's 500 videos each, and they get all the transparency that they deserve. It's all negative, almost all of it negative, and some of it just laughable, literally laughable. This is a comedy show, comedy and news. But yeah, they just don't like the kind of coverage they're getting. I guess they didn't really realize how far it had gone.
Well, and listen, just to be clear, I believe that I have stated agreement with each and every one of the commissioners at least one time on this show, sometimes several.
Oh, yes, me too. I have.
Because when they say something that I agree with, bingo, I'm going to give them credit for it. Isn't this interesting that they are going to these lengths, obviously, to counteract something? What could that be?
They make it very clear when they're talking about getting on social media and about the value of an internet site and this kind of stuff. They're talking mostly about us, but now even the Courier has joined in. So they're like, oh, now what are we going to do? Where are they going to get this stuff printed, Mike?
Well, and amazing the effect of a non-media outlet.
Yeah, we're nothing. You're watching nothing. You think you're watching something, everybody. You're not watching anything, according to the commissioners. And I was on Bill Meyer's show the other day, and he said, they don't recognize you as media. That's lunatic. I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. And he said, well, I'm going to write them a letter. Well, okay. And ask them, why don't you recognize these guys? They're obviously media. They break news that we don't have. They tell us the news. The guy's on here every Monday telling us the news. And so why are they not media of any kind? Now, I mean, you can say, well, they're not news media because they're commentators. Well, we do the news. We also publish things where there's no commentary at all. But see, the commissioners they can't allow that, because if they allowed that, then I would be allowed back in after 8 months of being in there, back into executive session. We'd be watching them, although we couldn't report on that, breaking the law, which is why they're not really facing prison time, but they could be if the state threw the book at them. They have the ability to do that. And the only reason they do so is if these guys made it obvious that they already know what the rules are and are breaking them anyway.
Yeah, which is odd that Cheryl took the occasion of your announcement of the 100-page document to make it very clear that she understood the rules entirely.
Yes, that's amazing.
And
they have no sense of irony. They just don't know what to say.
What is this? What is this document about then? I don't get it. I mean, so what you're saying is that you're breaking the law and you don't care.
Right. Oh, just because
Perhaps.
some investigator from the Ethics Commission has found us guilty, and it's punishable by up to a year in prison for each count, and we've got 4 of them. That doesn't mean anything. So don't pay attention to this guy. I mean, just because he's got 100 pages and we've got zip, well, that doesn't mean anything. Are you going to believe us or your lying eyes?
Yeah.
All right. So what they did, we're going to roll back just a little bit, not physically roll back, but we're going to roll back a little bit in time. So what they did at this same meeting, keep in mind, this is partly a Wally Hicks project. Why is the legal counsel involved in this? We already told you. Stop asking. And so, well, you can ask, but it's already been answered. Asked and answered, counselor. Okay, so they're sitting there with Wally Hicks, and Wally has come up with somebody that's a political friend of his that's decided to give the commissioners on the telephone, because she's up in Portland, which is great. Yes, we're getting advice from up north about how they can have better relationship with the media. Oh, with all of the media? No, just with one of the media. Okay, so she's going to tell us now. She has a company called ART, and those are her initials. And she's going to tell them what they can do. And we're going to listen carefully, because this is some pretty good advice here, actually, except these guys will never be able to do this. You can stop and start it anywhere you like, Mike.
Okay.
Mike.
I think I'll start it right here.
Oh, okay. All right.
The challenge is to try to address, like the city of Grants Pass puts out in their monthly water and sewer bills, a monthly newsletter. We really don't have a mechanism to accomplish that. Our bill or our correspondence with our constituents is annual, and it has to do with the tax bills, and that's never very positive as far as, you know, they get this thing and then they're supposed to read something about the positive things their money's doing, I hope. We really don't have the opportunity to do that in a tax bill. And so looking at trying to find low-cost alternatives to a publication that would go out monthly to all of the residents of Josephine County to just better explain some of the situations that are covered in the media, but not always covered with 100% accuracy or the entire perspective.
Now, to every resident, wow. This is his dream.
Well, why not just put it out? I mean, I'm sure that the sneak preview would do this sort of thing.
Oh, wouldn't you think? A sneak preview has said, "Hey, the guy has said that we're the sort of the newsletter for the Chamber of Commerce." But see, then you'd need to actually read the sneak preview instead of just looking at the ads or whatever.
Listen, if this publication that they're going to put out comes to my mailbox, I'm not going to read it. And neither are most of the people who receive it.
But you're going to pay for it.
Oh, well, yes.
So it's like having a subscription, isn't it? A forced subscription, because they want to tell. What did he say? We want to tell the people the actual facts of the stories, which don't often come out in the media. Now, of course, they're talking about the Courier, but who else do you think he's talking about?
Or they're not reported accurately.
Yes, that's the problem. See, we're so ignorant of the facts. Why, you obviously don't understand economic development. They're going to use economic development money to pay for this. Economic development money.
That is so bizarre. And I guess the story there is that if the citizens are feeling more positive about how the county is spending their money and the things that they're doing, that our higher self-esteem will inspire companies to come into our town and invest, and that will create economic development.
Now, do you think that they're talking about, however, some positive article about Scott Chansey? They already have that. Are they talking about a positive article about Nate Gowrie-Ran and how he's working with kids? They already have that. Well, so what do you think they're talking about here, Mike? They're talking about a positive article about 2 people who are running for commissioner. They want to use my tax dollars to run against me.
Oh, yeah, but I'd be willing to bet that some of these articles are going to be about Simon Hare too.
Yeah, he's running. He wants to be the vice president of ONC, and he's not going to get there if there's these articles that truthfully tell you that they could potentially be facing prison time. They're not going to, they don't want that guy. This is where this started. Why do you think Wally Hicks is in the room? He's the legal counsel.
Yeah, I really don't know that much about the ONC organization, so I don't know if they care about that or not.
Yeah, organized crime or whatever it stands for.
They're certainly not doing us any good.
No.
Okay, here we go.
Organized crime.
That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, basically to provide an objective, non-partisan, non-apolitical, just
This is the information.
straight information. Yeah. And so now I did advise the board. I did ask Anna. I sent the infamous Fence to Nowhere news article to Anna, and so if the board's interested in gleaning her observations, I would definitely invite the board to ask her about that. It's not going to be painful to hear what she has to say about that. But it's probably worth discussing. But she's ready basically to, I think, talk a little bit about communications policy and then just hear what you have to say and do a discussion.
Okay, great.
Okay, so thanks, and I will be brief because I know that you read kind of this memo I put together, but I will say that you're not alone. I think that governments across the state are in the same situation as you, where you are operating on very limited funds. Generally, I think government right now across the nation is somewhat suspect to its own citizens and the media, so you have that challenge as well. And when you're working with limited funds, hiring a communications person seems to the public oftentimes as kind of an extraneous job. When it's
just a very, very quick interjection here. Why do you suppose it is that people across the nation are suspect of their government?
Maybe because some of that government is facing the potential of prison time.
Yeah, maybe. But I suspect that it's just because government keeps coming at us more and more and more all the time with one thing after another, one greater expense after another, one inconvenience after another, one silly little thing like this. It's sad. They'd be a lot more suspect of their government if they knew that this kind of stuff was happening in the boardrooms. They are generally probably not aware that this probably happens quite a bit. It probably happens less here because there's a camera on them than it does in other places where there isn't a camera on them.
I think I understand that. Yes, I think I know where you're going with that. The thing about this meeting isn't it kind of pathetic? I mean, they can't get anybody to write happy, positive articles about them. They just can't get anybody to do it. And so they're going to pay somebody. And this would be like a ghostwriter, because, see, these articles are potentially in the newspaper or wherever, or in an ad, it'll have their name at the bottom. That's a ghostwriter. That's somebody who's writing it, and then you pretend like you wrote it because it's being submitted under the name of Simon Hare or Keith Heck.
Really? Boy, that's even more pathetic. But, it's sad. Here they are on a phone with a consultant who's going to tell them how to make the local county government be thought of in a positive light.
Yeah.
I don't know. You make sandwiches for a living. What do you suppose is going to make people want to come back for more sandwiches? Well, maybe you make them so they taste good. You do a good job at what you do. Maybe that. And maybe it's because that is such a subjective thing and that these people don't really understand how to do that. And so since they don't know how to do that, the only option left to them is to have people write stories about how great they're doing. And maybe that will create the illusion that you cannot create by actually doing a good job.
Well, I'm so glad you came up with that analogy, because we did not talk about this ahead of time. So those of you who are fans of the show, write us a letter about this. Using that same analogy, if you've been caught on videotape spitting in that sandwich, not once, not twice, but multiple times.
Oh, man.
And then you still want to get people to trust you, you may have some problems.
Yeah, that is a very good analogy there. Or could you imagine you're standing in line to get your sandwich, and they're berating you and insulting your intelligence, and telling you how bad of a choice it was that you picked the roast beef instead of the turkey.
No soup for you today.
No soup for you. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, shall we continue?
They need expert help. We know that, but they're getting it on another area.
Thanks.
That is really, really important, because I think that the public does need to know and understand what you're doing on their behalf. They elect you to represent them, and telling that story does require a dedicated person. But you don't have the funds for that. So in that, I do think that there are ways with a low-cost budget for you to enhance the way that you're communicating to the public the good work you're doing on their behalf. And I will say that it doesn't necessarily come without controversy. The decisions that you're being put in a position to make oftentimes are controversial, but the public still does need to understand the rationale behind your decisions. And I think that the public will also, even if they disagree with the decision, I think that the more forward and transparent you are in your decision-making process, the more respect you'll get from the citizens.
Well, there's your key to respect, Mike. Now, I'm so glad she told him that. And you see Hare writing down notes. Yeah. Be transparent. People will respect you.
Yes.
That's all they need to do is write it down and then keep looking at it. And then get a tattoo, like a number on your arm to remind you what you are. Not going to happen, buddy. Not going to happen.
Wow. Okay.
Next.
Oh, is that the high sign? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I think that the other piece is, if you do know something's going to be controversial, you'd rather tell the story on your own terms. I think it's really easy to shy away from something that you think might be bad news, so it's easier just to kind of wait for it to come out in another way. I think if something's going to be bad news or something's going to be controversial, it's much better for you to position it, you to be forward, you seek out the reporter, you seek out the ways to share the decision or the bad news with the citizens in your terms.
Too late for that.
They're running away from bad news. This story that part of the narrative here was they centered this story called the Fence to Nowhere. Okay. And there was these citizens, I think that they were mostly, if I remember right, mostly senior citizens. And they were parking in this parking lot. And then suddenly there's this fence up there and they're going, hey, why is there this fence up there? And they have no idea. So the newspaper tried to call and get an answer. Well, they made a mistake of calling the commissioner's office first. The commissioners weren't there. Now, guess who they got on the phone? 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. Well, I don't know. Why don't you check with somebody else? I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly those same words. And that got written into the article. I don't know. Why don't you check with somebody else? Okay. So then they try to check with somebody else. And that person says, gee, I don't have any idea. Why don't you check with the commissioner's office? It does sound like the runaround, doesn't it? But it's typical. It is who these guys are. Yeah. When I put up a picture of somebody, I could easily, with the Dale and Mike show every picture of me or Mike. It would be easy to do that, right? Because we try not to, but that's kind of cheating. I mean, you don't need to always have a
somebody,
picture
right,
with a finger up their nose. Okay, so I don't do. But if that picture, if you see Keith Heck and he's like, arr, 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 you can't find a little picture of him that doesn't have that in it, right? And so I put that up. The same thing here. If there's an overall picture of who these imperial majesties are, that's one of them, buddy. You try to get the information, they're like, hey, you just think we're going to, like they said to Sandy Casanelli, you think that we're going to give information to the likes of you? Really? That's that's where you live. Did you know that? That's where you live.
Yeah, these people who are supposed to be your public servants are making determinations about who you are the likes of.
So the Courier, who's been writing these happy articles through Jim Moore or covering up the news on their behalf for years, then writes a story about how you can't get any information out of these characters. That drove him wild. Well, we do have the answer. Well, why didn't you share it with the citizens in the first place? Well, that was just, that's one of those things. So she's going to suggest, and then when the Courier writer tries to write something about it, they're not telling him either. They're doing it. They do this to us all the time. And now they're doing it. Now the Courier's actually writing about it. Jim Moore wasn't looking into it in the first place. Why would he do that? Well, there's porn at the library. I'm not going to get my bottom up over and go look at that. Then you hear about the fact that it's definitely there. He's not going to write about that. And then citizens at this thing invited by Cheryl berate me. Hey, you're a pervert and you're this. That. He's not going to write about that. You're not writing about any of it. And you'll never, ever, ever hear it on KJO because it might be misinterpreted as bad government. Now that they're actually being called to account by the state, by us, by the Courier, well, we need a writer to write happy, positive articles, and we probably aren't going to get the Courier to do it, so we'll have to pay to get somebody to write something happy about it. Somebody has to know. And how do you assign that? Who can come up with these happy articles? What happy articles? Okay, go ahead.
Because otherwise you're going to be chasing it and be on the defense. And the other piece is just to be accessible. Accessibility is really critical, whether it's to the citizens directly or to reporters. And I think there's different ways you can do that. You're very busy, I know, but there's a lot of opportunities to establish either weekly sit-downs with your local beat reporter. I would highly advise a monthly editorial board visit as a commission if you're allowed to do that.
Put pressure on them.
The three of you together makes a quorum, so I don't know if that's feasible.
That's not going to stop them.
Just being accessible to talk about the things that are going on in the community, what you're hearing from citizens with reporters, so they're hearing it from you, not just from the vocal minority that are often disgruntled. I also think that the media is, I'm guessing it's the same down there, but the media is hungry for content. So I think there are opportunities to provide, if there are human interest stories, things that you're coming across in your daily work that you think may not rise to an agenda item necessarily for a commission meeting, but could be an interesting topic to share with the public. By all means, the media is looking for content. They want to do their job well, and the way they do their job well is having strong sources like yourselves who are experts in what you're working on.
Now, what do you think they're talking about human interest stories here also? Did you know that Keith Hick used to be with the Gospel Rescue Mission, and now he's taken that same respectful and religious attitude to the county business sessions, where he treats everyone equally and would never yell or call anybody a name, like a what did he call me? I always forget this. I truly forget it. He called me
a lying maggot.
A lying maggot not because I'd said anything. I said stuff afterwards, but because we played back a tape of him saying he didn't want to do the Pledge of Allegiance at these meetings because he found it repetitive. Keith, the Pledge of Allegiance in Josephine County, you're a lying maggot. The tape is lying? An inanimate piece of plastic and metal is lying to you? Why am I a lying maggot? And then he goes on KJO, and they're egging him on. Oh, yeah, well, that's terrible, Keith. Yeah, this guy posts this stuff anonymously. Where'd that come from?
Yeah. It says Dale Matthews on every single one of the YouTube videos. Every single one of them. There's no hiding there. It's, You
shine an infrared light on me, and it says Dale Matthews on my forehead. I mean, have you ever known me to be, well, that's counting against myself. But I mean, come on, anonymously, where did he come up with this?
Have you ever known me to post anything anonymously? Of course you haven't, because I do it all the time and you never discover it.
No, see, what I don't want to do is I don't want to be one of those people like the wife of a former sheriff who then go around and she was on Facebook saying her name was Little Red Riding Hood. Come on. Okay, just be honest and tell people your name. If you've got something that you want to say, or you want to, Dale Matthews and Sandy Casanelli are both gay and they used to live together. Please, look, candidate for commissioner, stop saying that kind of stuff. That's stupid. Okay, it's just stupid. So, if you're going to say something, come right out and say it and put your name on it. I do. Mike does. And we're here every night. Look, we've got a lot more, and we're going to play more of what she has to say. And then it seems obvious to me, Mike, we're going to have to stretch this out into a second day, but I don't feel like we're milking it. Do you?
No. And, I mean, we got a late start here. So this is, I don't know. How far are we into this here?
I don't know. We didn't get a late start. We're right on time. Like
yes,
RV
that's
TV
right.
used to say,
yes,
RV TV would say, just
it
because
just seems like it.
Your entire church, couldn't find what we posted, our records show that we always post everything exactly on time. IT, the sound is always good at the Ann Basker. Why? There's always great video. What's the matter with you guys? It must be your home TV set. At least we admit when we've got a problem. You know what my problem is. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Information.
Oh, yeah. See, you could have just been patient and the thing would have fed to, would have gone black here. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay.
The other thing is with the age of digital media and other social communications tools, you can be your own reporter. You can be your own news outlet.
Really?
And start communicating more directly with the citizens of Josephine County. Again, I'm not entirely sure how plugged into Facebook and Instagram and those other tools that are out there, how widely your citizenry is plugged into that. But I do know that reporters will follow it. So that's another way, is even if you're talking directly to citizens, reporters will follow that.
That's true.
That's a way to communicate with them as well.
That's absolutely true.
It is absolutely true. Let me tell you, if you don't know this already, Facebook is the grapevine around this town. And in 5 minutes, you can hear about something earth-shattering that's taken place, and it may morph into something different, but you're going to hear about it on Facebook almost right away.
I've given this example before. It's a small one, but somebody had said, gee, it looks like there was damage to the caveman. I don't really care, honestly, but okay, damage to the caveman. So I thought, because Facebook, come on, social media. Mike reports about that. And we do tell you what people are saying, because there's a lot of political comment out there, okay? Not just cat videos. And so I thought, well, I know where to find out. If there's any damage to that thing within just a couple of minutes, it's going to be on Facebook. It's not going to be a KJO. And it's not going to be a Courier. And certainly not going to be on the TV stations. We'll have it at 7 o'clock, okay? But we can't be on around the clock. Sorry for all of our fan out there. And so I went to Facebook, and there was not a single word. And I was just about convinced then by that. I didn't even need to ask the question. There wasn't anybody talking about it.
Right. Because you know what would have happened? Somebody would have taken their phone, gone out there and snapped a picture and put it on Facebook right away. That would have happened almost instantly.
There are people who look at the cameras that are facing around town or listen to the scanners, the police scanners. There are whole clubs dedicated to this.
Oh yeah. Now there's a couple of Facebook pages right here in Josephine County that are nothing but people who sit there and listen to scanners and then immediately post what's going on to Facebook. That's
then
what they
we
do.
go there. So that you don't have to. I don't know if I want to get involved with that. Don't get involved. That's okay, because we do. Mike does. I do. Mike runs one of these things about politics. And then when people call him, he answers the phone in the middle of the show. And so I do everything that I can. We do everything that we can. Our viewers should do everything they can to keep people informed about what's happening. Even the Courier now, because of our influence, there's no bones about it, buddy. They now pay more attention to Facebook and also what we're saying on Facebook, because we eat their lunch on a daily basis about what the news is. They publish supposedly every day. It's supposedly the Daily Courier. It's not. And we publish every day, 7 days a week. But we're out ahead of them a lot of the time. It doesn't have to be that way, but they're slow. They're really slow. Wow.
Which is odd, because they're making money and we're not. Something wrong with that.
He's always
Wow.
reminding me of that.
Wow,
And
for crying out loud.
my answer is, if I'm encouraging you to come and watch our show and you get the feeling, just the feeling, the idea of impropriety. Okay, well, okay, I know capitalism isn't improper, but you get the feeling that the reason that we're trying to get you to come here is to sell you some kind of new gizmo. And so that's where the commissioners have gotten in trouble, because everybody knows when they say something to you, there's something behind it. There's nothing behind what we're saying. Oh, that didn't come out right. You know what I mean. Play the next little piece, please, or lecture me. Lecture me. Go ahead.
By the way, I'm going to start selling gizmos. So if you'd like to buy a gizmo, send us an email at badcounty@cpros.com. I'm selling them cheap. Okay, here we go.
I don't sell myself cheap.
I think that a reporter's job is to ask tough questions, and so
really?
It's really, really important that you don't get defensive, because that will ultimately shift the story to tone as opposed to the content.
Look at hair. Look at hair.
Is being really cognizant when you're planning your agenda for board meetings, because that is a place where the media is going to attend every 2 weeks, and that is going to be a decision-making function of the entity. Is when you're going in and you know you have a big decision to make, being prepared to talk about that decision.
They're never going to do this.
Share with the citizens the information that you had in terms of background from your policy experts in the county, the information you used to glean the decision that you came to, and the rationale behind that, and why that is in the best interest of the county.
Oh no, Simon.
And I think it's changing the way.
I can't do that.
Yes, no,
no, we can't.
Being very prepared to communicate why you're taking the vote you're taking, and why you think it's in the best interest of the citizens.
I better check to see if I have any text
and
messages.
that's a big cultural step.
Maybe from young girls. Okay, that's nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, why don't you be more proactive about it, Simon? Why don't you tell people ahead of time when you think that there's something that might look? When she was talking about this infamous fence to nowhere thing, where nobody could get any straight answers out of anybody because of bad office staff starting, and then nobody else knew anything. And don't forget now, Keith Heck said, I am the source of information. So if they can't get a hold of Keith Heck, now who's supposed to say something, because you don't want to get in trouble? And it's not Keith that's going to get you in trouble. You know what she's going to do if you say something that she doesn't like. Even the other two commissioners tremble at the sound of her name, like the horses in Young Frankenstein when you say Frau Blucher. You're supposed to make a neigh and a whinny sound. Anyway.
I don't know these things. So.
Oh, you don't know?
I watch movies. I watch movies and they go in and they go out. I generally am not one to memorize dialogue or anything like that, even in movies that I like and have seen 100 times.
Okay. Well, Blucher. Okay. So, they're not going to be able to do any of these things. They can't do that. When she was talking with them about the fence to nowhere thing, she says, what you ought to do now, just in this one small example, is explain to the courier what it was that happened. It's been a little while. And Simon's like, I'm not going to go back to that issue. I mean, this is over. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
No, their whole thing, as it relates to this ethics commission thing, was to not talk about it and not have it come out and just deny it ever existed. So how is it then that you're going to get out in front of? Boy, I'm really waiting for them to get out in front of one of their bad stories and for them to break their own news. That's going to be interesting. That's going to put us out of business. There.
No, this is the best part of all. You should know. Okay, you're our viewers. You should know. Mike and I are waiting like this for them to start putting out 500 words every month written by a ghostwriter with their name on it, explaining their happy things that they're doing. Can you believe? It's like handing out free ammunition, because in a fair and equitable government, it would be explaining things. That's not what's going to happen here. We just want to explain what a great success. They've said it on tape. What a great success story that the Manor Development Project, the drone project out at the airport was. That was a great success. Did you guys know that? They've declared it's a great success. And every once in a while, it comes up as one of their examples of a success.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine they're writing this kind of thing, the same kind of thing. Can you imagine what we're going to do with that? These guys are insane if they think that they're going to be able to put out something, some blathery thing that explains what their successes are. We can't even listen. We've asked you this before. You're our loyal viewers, okay? I'm going to switch it over to Mike so that you can see the email address. If you can come up with something that was a towering success, and I don't mean a tower that was torn down, but a towering success in this administration, send us the example and we'll talk about it.
Oh, listen, even if you have something minor, we'd be willing to, entertain that because, and listen, I could probably point out a couple of things that they finally got right or whatever, but
they pointed
if you
someone
just
to a
remind
board,
us of
big deal.
anything.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, tell us anything that you think that these guys have done correctly or, deserve a lot of credit for. And,
And I'm not talking about Simon saying, I think we ought to go slow on something where the other two want to go fast. I don't mean one individual commissioner. They're always talking to themselves as a board. That as a board, they're quite successful. That they are deliriously happy and super successful leadership. That's what they have as a team. It was the sneak preview that said it's the best commissioners of all time, the best board of all time. And who is the leader? Who is the number one most successful leader that everybody loves? Cheryl Walker.
Yes.
It takes your breath away.
The Nancy Pelosi of Josephine County is by far the best ever.
I think she's giving them good advice, but they'll never be able to follow it. Go ahead. I think she's got a little bit more here, Mike.
If you have three stories like that, then it starts to kind of build this own narrative about the county that it's kind of like the person that's late the first few times. They could be on time the rest of their life, but you always consider them to be the person that's late. That's really important to nip that while you can and change the narrative while you can so that you are a county that's responsive, responsible, and accessible in communicating with the public.
No, I definitely don't disagree. I'm not going to make an excuse, but it almost seems like we're past the point of resurrection on that.
Yes!
Oh, yeah, that is a long time ago, but I would say the next
Not
one.
just that one, it's the
I'm not
cumulative
going to make
effect
an
issue
excuse,
that I think
but
you were drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to commit ourselves to addressing it and then being consistent. We have to be on time for every meeting after that in order to overcome that connotation that we're late. You know what I mean? And if we're not 100% committed to that, being on time the next time, but then being late two more times doesn't solve the problem. And so
You're absolutely right.
we have to be committed to being on time,
Yep.
addressing every element
and we're
in the
going to
media
start
that we
next
can
week.
that is inaccurate. And frankly, there's an element of an error in every single story I think I've ever read. And so, but you just kind of, how much are you going to do? And so I'm not trying to make an excuse, but that's the mental struggle that I have.
Yeah, he has a lot of mental
struggle
struggles.
that he has.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be able to have time for any more of this, but can you believe what he just said?
Oh man, this is amazing. And listen, I will tell you that in every newspaper that I've ever dealt with, that they cannot get a story correctly. I don't know what it is about press. They cannot report accurately a story. They just can't.
We're the press too. We're also the press. So what makes us, well, maybe we're not different. I like to think that we are. Maybe it's because we're basing it on like the thing that we showed you last night. Eder is a good guy, but he didn't get the quote right. He got it backwards, completely backwards.
Well, typically though, what's happening when we're doing this, we are showing video and then commenting on it. So the video is there. That's the record. It's there. You can see what they said. You can see the context in which they said it.
But not according to Wally Hicks. Not according to Wally Hicks. And this is the biggest disappointment about this guy. I had such high hopes for him. I really did. And he seemed like such a good guy. Now he's taken their stand that what's on tape is not what you're seeing. It's not on tape. Wally,
Well,
what?
and they want to, manufacture their own narrative, is what's clear going on here. This is going to be an interesting thing to watch develop. It's funny, Simon saying, we need to, be on time from here on out, and not on time today, and then late in 2 weeks. This is all euphemism for being ethical and transparent, and all of that, and he appears to be making a commitment to it in this situation right here. I need to be convinced of that. I need for him to be on time every single week from here on out.
Ethical, not breaking the law. But look, we've got lots of helpers. Look at what Jack Swift said about the unethical county clerk that we had. Jack Swift said he was the most ethical guy. Didn't he say that? And what was it that Wally Hicks said? I don't make a decision on a daily basis unless I think about Jesus. No, not about Jesus, about Art Harvey. And what would Art Harvey do?
Yeah, that's
Wally, really Wally, what are you talking about? You're insane.
I believe that there is a way. Listen, I'm not a PR guy. Anybody that knows me or watches this program, no, I'm not a PR guy. I'm not going to tell you how the county could have better relationship with the people, except for, do your job and do no harm. Do no harm in your job.
Start. Yes,
that should get you good press. And if it doesn't, then just deal with it, for crying out loud. This is like, you want to break the law. You want to make bad decisions, and then you want to be lauded for it. I mean, in what world does that work?
Well, it's been the rule in this county for quite a long time. For quite a long time. I believe it's the time to change that and to say, we're not going to accept that anymore. Now, you've got choices coming up for a lot of people. There's 3 city councilors. There's 2 county commissioners. There is the clerk, which looks like a good person running for clerk this time, which is astounding. And there's the mayor of Cave Junction. This is an overturn of a lot of things. The presidential election in November, we got a bunch of stuff coming up. You do have it within your hands, and there's not much they can do about it. Now that our Harvey's gone, I don't even think we need to worry about anyone finagling with the numbers. This is really a turning point. And because of the way the county is set up, 2 people who agree it's time to clean house. I don't mean anything radical like throwing everybody out, but how about just holding people accountable? How about the folks that borrowed money, finding out, are they paying any of it back? Really? It's that basic. And it doesn't need to be people walking down the street with red flags flying. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about basically, don't break the law, and don't accept advice from a legal counsel that says, don't worry about breaking the law, nobody's enforcing it. Hey, that's not ethical. You get in trouble with the Ethics Commission because of that kind of stuff, pal. Don't sit in with them and then say, well, I'm not guilty of anything, they are. No, wait a minute. You are. No, it's not right. We can do something about it. It is up to you. So make wise choices, and your first wise choice is to watch this show every night.